Hello, welcome to 30 Minutes. I'm Rick Anthony. I think it was in 2010 or thereabouts that I first met a young man on a mission. A timely mission because it was a great need then, there's an even greater need now. His name is Derek Fiorenza. I don't know if you remember my first and second visit with young Derek, but as I said, he had a story that was compelling at the time, is even more compelling. A graduate of Villanova, an MBA from another school, not Villanova, a football player, still playing semi-pro ball. He'll tell you that aspect of his life in just a minute. The organization he founded and has since grown is called Fiorenza's Food for Friends, an organization that started around Christmas time when he read about the homeless in Philadelphia and took it upon himself and his family to collect food, take it down in boxes and packages to the homeless on the streets of Philadelphia. Caught the attention of the local news media and became a local sensation for the work he was doing then, and they continue to do it. However, the good work has spread, and now they're operating in 6 states. The organization has grown. It is a 501c3. They even have an executive director. They have a program that is going from just Derek and friends going down to Philadelphia to a much more expansive program where they're acting as an intermediary and bringing foodstuffs, people who have food that they can donate to organizations that need it. That's the context for my discussion today with Derek Fiorenza. Welcome, Derek. Good to see you again.
Appreciate it.
And your new executive director, Brenda Russell.
Nice to meet you.
Not so new, since February, right?
That's correct.
That's right. Brenda had a career in Vanguard, decided to leave that, and now has her own entrepreneurial venture.
Yes.
But volunteers her time on a full-time basis to this, obviously.
That's
because you
correct.
believe in the work that Derek and friends are doing. Derek, you got rid of the ponytail. You look very presentable. Your full-time job is with your father in his consulting business, retirement planning. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
In King of Prussia?
King of Prussia.
The name of which is?
The Summit Group Associates, and we focus on work with employers on the design, installation, and full service of the retirement plans for their employees.
Be lucky you're not still in the healthcare business, since there ain't no more.
There's been some changes.
They sure have. However, we could roll that one back. Who knows, depending upon what's happening here. Tell the story that you told me the first time we met about how you became involved in and became so passionate about the people you saw in the doorways and on the streets and people sleeping on heating grates and so on the streets of Philadelphia.
So to take it all the way back to when I grew up as a child, it's always been something our family's been involved in. We used to volunteer at soup kitchens and serve. When I remember 6, 7, 8 years old, I would be in the soup kitchens of Coatesville with my family. And at the time, we didn't think of it, but when you're growing up and you're exposed to it, I think something resides in your heart and your head. So I was volunteering at a breakfast with Santa. It was over 6 years ago, 2007, and it's unbelievable. The time has just flown.
Yes.
And I asked the caterer, Mizuno's Catering in Westchester, he was our first supporter. I said, would you be willing to donate 25 meals, and with that, we'll serve a homeless shelter with our family? And he said, well, give me a call and we'll see what happens. And I called him. I'm not sure if he thought I was actually going to follow through on it, but I did. And next thing you know it, he said, I'll be more than happy to donate the meals. He donated the meals, and from that day on, I said, at Christmas time, we'll always do something special. The following year, we served 50. The following year was 100. Then I said, you know what? Why don't we go for 1,000? So that's when 2010 came around, we did 1,000 meals. I think that's when I was on with you last. Right. And it was in the spring of 2011 that I said, it's time to incorporate as a 501c3. So that's what we did. We went on to not only do warm meals around the holidays, but also we got involved in the non-perishable food drives. So that was a big step for us because up until that point, we only served warm meals at Christmas that were donated from restaurants. So now the whole organization, the operation has evolved, and we have a few different parts. Our main cause is hunger awareness. So that's our goal. Everything starts with hunger awareness and falls under that umbrella. And with that is our 3 E's. So we talk about education. We want to educate people, make them aware of the hunger problems in our country. We want to engage them, inspire them to take action, to step forward and get involved. And then finally, we want to eradicate the problems. So we want to provide them an avenue to step forward and to solve those problems that are so large.
Up until February or so, you were doing this pretty much on your own. How did you and Brenda come to connect?
Yeah, I can have Brenda tell you that story, but up until February, we didn't even have a board. It was just me kind of working with volunteers sporadically. And maybe Brenda can fill you in on that.
I started in February. I saw an ad in the local paper, the Community Courier, as many of our volunteers have come from. And, I was interested. I showed up at a meeting at the Daily Local in Westchester, is where we meet regularly, and found out about the organization and, bounced around from a couple of roles and really found my niche with some of the initiatives that the organization has on. I have some availability, more than most people. So I kind of entrenched myself into the organization and made a lot of calls with different nonprofits and other organizations that we could work with, and really just, I guess, was asked to be the executive director and ran with it from there.
And everybody else stepped back, and you were standing all by yourself.
Great. Absolutely.
So Brenda now frees you up to do more of what?
So this is actually the first time we're announcing to the world, so this is very exciting news. So now the world can meet Brenda Russell, our executive director. The impetus behind that is I have a big vision that I want to start working on, and it's more than just day-to-day of serving, because that's important, but this problem is so large, we need a sustainable solution. And the only way to do that, I believe, is through education, and then from education comes action. Think of a rock you throw into a lake, and it creates a ripple
Education
effect.
of whom?
Everyone, society in general, making people aware of the hunger problem.
You don't think society in general is aware of the hunger problem?
I don't.
Really?
I do not. I do not. And if they are, I don't think they don't know how to assist. So many of the organizations that do exist, the larger food banks, many people don't know that they charge a transportation cost for the food that they donate. They take food from one county, redistribute it to other counties, charge for that food. In many cases, they charge a membership cost to be involved as
These
a
are
partner.
nonprofits?
These are big food banks.
Are they nonprofits?
Yes.
Are they for?
Oh yeah, they're nonprofit organizations.
Okay.
So it's their model. It's their service model. It's how they work. And not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent. We have a different direction we want to go. We have two principles. One, we're going to always attempt to keep the food local. So if we collect it in the county, we'll keep it in that county. And then the second big principle, and most important principle, is we will never charge the recipients a transportation cost, a membership cost, or an actual food delivery cost, which separates us from other organizations. Now, we're not here to take the place of homeless shelters or food banks. We're here to support them, but with that support comes education. And if we see this happening, we want to kind of come in and educate the public, educate the food industry, and educate people in general. Here's what's happening, and here's what you can do to help. So they can circumvent it by working directly, if not with us, with their local food pantry, as opposed to working with these big food banks.
But the faith-based community has always been the principal distribution channel for food, to get food to those who need it. Do you work closely with faith-based organizations?
So that's another big distinction. I myself am a man of faith. Everything I do is because of God and for God. The organization has remained secular. The reason for that is I wanted to create a line that I didn't want to alienate anyone. So if you believe in God, you don't believe in God, everyone suffers from hunger. So I want everybody involved in helping, everybody supporting. So yes, we do work with faith-based organizations that support food, and we also work with organizations that aren't faith-based. Our goal is to assist those in need, and that's where it starts.
But what you told me, I guess the second time we met, when you were really beginning to organize this into an entity, you do not then, nor do you now, accept federal, state, or any other government money, because it usually has some strings attached to it, constraints that you can't operate in.
Absolutely.
Has that been a handicap?
I don't think it has. I don't think it has. Our organization is approaching 85,000 pounds of food served across 16 states. Now we're not
16?
We're not operating in 16, but we've served in 16 states. This year we set up a chapter in Jacksonville, Florida, and with our expansion and with our growth, funds will become important. And to that end, that's what the educational piece will provide. But I don't want to break our principles, our values, our character, just to sacrifice it for federal, state, or local funds.
How many chapters do you have?
We have a chapter in Chester County and a chapter in Jacksonville, Florida currently.
Okay.
And then these other states, the other 6 that you mentioned earlier, we're going to be serving, it's part of our feeding frenzy. That's the thing we did 6 years ago that we've done every year around December.
Right.
So this year we have 12 days leading up to Christmas. We're going to serve in different states at different homeless shelters.
Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and New York State.
For 12 consecutive days.
For 12 consecutive days.
Correct.
Leading up to
Christmas.
Yeah.
Yep.
The 12 days of
12
Christmas.
days of Christmas.
I'm brilliant.
There
I'm
we go.
absolutely-
There you're on it.
I guess I'm still wondering how big do you see this initiative becoming, particularly in the absence of any federal support, federal endorsement, and the competition. Going back to the earlier point, I asked you, do you really believe people aren't aware that we have a hunger problem in this country? My feeling is there are too many organizations that are stumbling over one another trying to get food to the poor. And that usually breeds inefficiencies, it breeds competition, none of which is good for what they all say they're trying to do, which is to eradicate a problem, a hunger problem. Within that group, we haven't talked about this even before when we were visiting, a growing number of veterans who are homeless, don't have food, don't have any resources, and that's getting worse. I mean, I've heard stories upstate Pennsylvania, vets are living in the woods, they're living under bridges. This is horrible, that as a nation we can permit this to happen. Do you as an organization single out groups with special needs like veterans or certain pockets of the city in Delaware County, for example, Chester, the city of Chester?
We are not singling out any group. And just to be clear, we are not competing with anybody. We are helping them and putting them in the right direction. So if we have an organization that needs money, we are seeking food in their area and partnering them with a corporation, a for-profit company that may have resources. And our hopes is that if we would run a non-perishable food drive in that area, the employees of that company would take the food to that shelter so that they would start to understand what is going on with their neighbors. And that's where we're talking about educating them right in their own community. So we're not competing with anybody. We're really there to be a liaison to help them find sources of food going forward.
Okay, and that is the new dimension of Fiorenza's Food for Friends. You were going direct initially.
Well, we still do.
I know you still do that,
direct.
but this other
But it's
dimension
when-
of being the intermediary and the collaborator, the enabler.
Yes, we're trying
That's
to.
the new role you're playing now.
Yes, we are doing that more so.
Yeah.
We've always done that, but we are expanding to do that more and more.
And Derek, I remember when you were here, I guess the last time, you were taking this program onto the college campuses and trying to involve undergraduate students. Is that still part of the strategy?
It still is, and it's the long-term strategy. So as I said earlier, think of an umbrella. And under the umbrella, we have some direct servicing. So we're taking food directly to shelters. We're taking food directly to food banks. Also under that umbrella is our awareness piece. And from that piece, the awareness piece, that's where our hope is to create a course, a 15-week college course that we can sell and market to universities, take the revenue we generate to run the organization so we're not leaning on sponsors and supporters as much, and then get involved in the colleges that way so that the course will actually lead to the creation of chapters within the schools. From that, they can go out and educate the high schools and the grade schools, and before you know it, the community. The community is aware of what we're doing, and we're there to support, not supplant, the food banks and homeless shelters. As you said, there's a lot of organizations that are helping.
Yes.
So why be another one?
Yes.
Why not support what they're already
I
doing?
agree.
So that's what our role and goal is.
Now that you've had a few months' experience under your belt and seeing this up close and personal, what is there about the program that excites you the most?
I think the thing is that we're getting so many more volunteers that are enthused about the mission. And they're becoming much more engaged and coming up with a lot of ideas that will enable us to educate more of the community and support the nonprofits that we work with. So it's very I don't know, I'm just very enthused with all of the support that we have with our new volunteers.
And they tend to be younger people, the volunteers?
I would say it's a mix, actually,
Yeah.
and most of them are full-time employed. So we do have some retirees that are
Yes.
helping us out, but we also have some full-time employees in the school system, with various organizations. So they're all coming from a different perspective that is, bringing us a lot of information that's helping us to move the organization forward.
Okay, let me get back to the question I asked before, because I'm sorry, I still need some clarity around this. And I mentioned vets, but because of the economy and because there are so many people who are out of work, that in most communities, I think we'd all be surprised at the level of poverty and hunger we have in even the most affluent communities, like the one we're sitting in now
Sure.
along the main line. But you don't target those pockets of need yourselves. Rather, you work with other nonprofits who may be targeting
Correct.
them. Okay.
That's correct.
All right. One exception is the program you have at Christmas time downtown. That is a direct.
And
that is your signature program.
that's what we started on.
Yes.
There's other programs too. The SHRIP program
Correct.
that we run. So for 5 or 6 months, we'll support.
Right. Well, that's another program that we have where we support a homeless shelter in Philadelphia 100% for all of their dinners. And that's one of our college programs. But I mean, as far as the Christmas program, we are reaching back to organizations that we are working with other initiatives. And we're just serving the meals one time at their
Right.
facility.
Right.
But we are doing other things with them. So it's organizations that have a need for someone to come in and prepare and serve the food. We're continuing to work with those and expand those organizations. That's where we're going to be with the 6 different states at Christmas.
Okay. Why do we have these T-shirts hanging behind us?
It's for awareness. Let people know the logo and the cause, so you can zero in on that.
It's evolved
It's evolved.
since the first time I saw it.
The F4, it's a symbol. So hopefully someday people will see this and they'll say, like the American Red Cross, people say that's hunger awareness. And that's what our goal is. And F4 is kind of a symbol you can kind of get behind it. The book's slick and
Yeah.
it's exciting. It just inspires everyone to kind of say, let's get involved in the fight against hunger.
Also to people ask questions. Well, what is F4? It gives us
Yeah.
an opportunity to educate them on the whole organization.
Again, I asked you about the volunteers and whether or not there is a preponderance of younger people, older people, and so on. I would guess anyway, a lot of younger people, if only because you are reaching into the college campuses. Villanova, I know you have an ongoing relationship there. But among older folks as well, I would think, people who find they have time on their hands, they're looking for something to do. They're not ready to make a full-time commitment,
Correct.
but they're willing to commit
Drive
to a
for
day.
us.
Yeah, exactly. Something, no heavy lifting. Let me just try it, see if it
Right.
works for me.
So they'll drive from, one agency that has food and take it to another nonprofit that
Right.
needs the food. We have a couple folks that are on a regular schedule that do that weekly for us.
And you work with organizations like RSVP. It's a county agent.
We've done some work.
It's national.
That's what Mitch was from. We've done some work with RSVP. There hasn't been a whole lot of traction with getting volunteers the way I would have hoped.
You still have a need for a number of volunteers?
We're
Or does
always
it
looking for
vary
volunteers.
throughout
I
the
would
year?
say the situation with the driving, it can be one-offs. So depending on what the initiative is, if we're doing a non-perishable food drive, we have one that's ending with next week. So we need to go to that corporation. Ideally, what I would like is that the corporation would go to the agency and drop the food off so that they can see exactly what's going on. And we
Yeah.
will be doing that with some of them. But this is a situation where they've just asked us, it's at Thanksgiving, they're asking us, can you come and pick the food up? And we'll take it right to the Chester County Food Bank because the corporation is in Chester County. But those are one-off situations. We do have a couple folks that will step in anytime. They also like to serve at some of the shelters that we provide food for. So that's what's happening really with our seniors.
What kind of recognition have you gotten? And what is it now? You started in '07. So what kind of recognition have you gotten over the past 6 years or so that has helped to propel and create awareness of who you are, what you do, and the good work you do?
We've been fortunate. The Daily Local News in Chester County has covered us almost annually on our annual food
Yes.
drives. The Community Courier has been a big supporter. We had an article with the Philadelphia Inquirer a few years ago. You've
I remember
brought us
that,
on
yeah.
a few times.
Right.
So Comcast down in Philadelphia has us on pretty frequently. So I think the awareness and support has been growing. What we're trying to do is we're trying to build the infrastructure so that when we are ready to accept more and more volunteers, we're able to plug them in place and say, here's how you can help directly.
I think I know that you see everything as a challenge, and you are undaunted to keep going. But have you had disappointments along the way?
We've had a lot of disappointments. There's been times I look at it and I say, we've served 85,000 people. but how many millions have we not served, right? And how many grants have we applied for? How many sponsorships we reached out to we haven't received? And I look at that as a long-term, goal and process. So in the short term, be disappointed for the day, but I always say lose a day, win the future, and that's what our whole MO is. Let's win the future, and let's get after it every day. Why are we doing it? I constantly remind the team to lead with confidence and to lead with humility, because we're serving those that need help. And that's why we do it. That's why we're all involved. And
But somehow you still find time to play a little ball?
yeah, I played football at Villanova.
Right.
Then I went on to Cal U in Pittsburgh. Played there for 3 years.
And that's where you got this
The Cal U ring.
humongous ring.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough. We went to the Division II Final Four playoffs. So 2 years I was out there. 2 years in a row we went there. Fortunately, didn't get to the championship game, but still it was exciting to be there.
Sure.
Then I had a few tryouts. I had with the Eagles and the Packers and Seahawks.
As a kicker?
As a kicker and punter. Tore my calf muscle.
Oh, lovely.
That was in 2010. Then I started rehabbing it the past few years, and I started playing with a team in Philadelphia called the Panthers. They're a semi-pro football team. They play in the fall. Their season just ended. And trying to get myself back into game shape for some tryouts in the spring. And I'll probably go at it for a few more years on the side, just giving it a shot.
Just for fun, or do you have any aspirations of going beyond that to the pros?
It's been a goal or a dream of mine since I was a kid to want to play professionally, to do what others said you couldn't do, to believe in a dream that seems unattainable. So whether that actually matriculates and it happens, great. If not, I'm at peace with whatever God has.
What will this organization, Friends' Food for Friends, look like 5 years from now?
I think in 5 years from now, I think we're going to have more chapters spread throughout the country. I fully anticipate having this college program rolled out. So I envision different colleges around the country offering this course. And with the proceeds we receive from the course, using that to run the day-to-day operations of the organization. I foresee us working towards becoming the nonprofit, the UPS of the nonprofit world, so distributing food at no cost throughout the country. And I fully anticipate us having global plans. So once we have secured a base and strategy inside America, you see, we're teaming up with who's in place. So we don't need to solve all the problems on our own.
Right.
We need to work with everybody that's in place.
Good strategy.
And provide awareness. Then once we have the hunger problem corralled, so to speak, in America, then I think absolutely going global and trying to help overseas.
And do you see your mission being limited to, not that it is inconsequential, but just food? What about other services?
Many organizations kind of fall into this trap, I believe. I think that if you do one thing, do it well. If you start doing many things, I think you struggle. Say, oh, I'll collect toiletries and I'll collect hats and I'll collect scarves and coats. It's hard enough to collect food. So we want to focus on being a food provider, being more than anything a creator of hunger awareness, and from that, we'll support the organizations that collect coats, but we're not going to become a coat collecting organization.
It occurs to me, even though it's a way out idea, and I can think of 6 reasons why it wouldn't work, but I'll ask anyway. What about supplements, vitamins, those kinds of things that the people whom you serve seldom have access to? A daily vitamin, in addition to the foods, the non-perishable foods. You know what I'm saying? Aren't there other dietary needs that you can satisfy? I know there are regulations you'd have to deal with, pharmaceuticals, that kind of stuff. But I just see the opportunity to expand this. I agree with what you're saying. You can't be all things to all people. But are there other services? Once you have this distribution network in place, that's the asset. And what else do you push through it?
I think one of the goals of the college course, it'll cover many things. Poverty. One of the things it's going to cover is going to be nutrition. So when we're conducting our research and we're talking to doctors and we're talking to university professors, if that's something that comes up as they need to have a daily vitamin, then I don't see why we wouldn't support it. It's part of the nutrition.
Yeah.
But a lot of that has to be conducted through research.
You just triggered something. You know Denise Aquilante. I
do.
Yes. And as you know, Denise Aquilante, who was one of the, 15 or 16 children of Tony Aquilante.
Yep.
Aquilante Catering, which is also, I know, been a big supporter of yours and been very generous. But her shtick is nutrition and healthy foods. And I know she's developed some snacks and things of that kind. Is she a possible source? People like her who come up with nutritious foods rather than just bulk, but how to eat well, not just how to fill your stomach.
So Denise and I have talked in the past. She's created a line of protein bars.
Yes, right.
And when they get approved and they're marketed,
Yeah.
she's talked about sharing proceeds of the bars with our organization.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a nice natural fit. So I would love to work with Denise on that. And we've talked about it. She's also donated some food that she's created for the military that she had left over.
The frozen meatballs
Yes.
and the sloppy joes.
Yep.
Yeah,
And we've
yeah.
delivered and served those at shelters.
Is that right?
So we've been to Pittsburgh and back with those.
Uh-huh. That's quite a family.
Oh yeah, they're amazing.
I've
Great
had-
people.
Yeah, Tony and his, what's it called? Ultimate chicken? No, turkey. Ultimate
Yep,
turkey.
the turkey.
I had Tony with his ultimate turkey here about Thanksgiving time.
Yep.
He's a piece of work.
He's amazing.
He is.
What a
He is.
man.
What a story.
Blessing.
That's a great story. Are there other members of your family who are still involved?
So my dad helps me routinely. We run ongoing food drives with the YMCA's of the Brandywine Valley. So the Westchester and Coatesville branches, we're picking up food because we put a cart there to collect during the week. So 2 or 3 days a week, we're picking up food, taking it to the Chester County Food Bank. So my dad supports me with that. And as far as other involvement, my one sister just graduated. She's a nursing student. She was a nursing student at Drexel. Now she's working in the city. My other sister's in high school, and my mom's getting her PhD. So it was a family effort, and
Yes.
they still help around the holidays.
Understand.
But it's less involvement year round.
Brenda, have you brought other members of your family in?
Not yet.
Not. Are they staying away from you now?
No. They're not involved yet, though.
You're coming into your season.
We are.
You're going to be very busy over the next, I guess, 2 months. What is your schedule for the next 2 months?
Well, so maybe I can break down our new roles in the organization.
Yes,
This
please.
is probably a good time. We set up committees, and the committees were meant to kind of offload what I was doing. When I first started, I was doing the work of all the committees. So our business development committee is the committee that organizes the non-perishable food drives, and then the perishable, servings at the shelters. So Brenda used to head that committee up, and they're the ones that are responsible for the 12 days of Christmas. So Brenda, you kind of spoke to that earlier.
Right. We'll be seeking out different organizations for 12 consecutive days to serve food to. And we're receiving a lot of food from Villanova for one of those days. So we'll be serving close to 1,000 people on
Really?
one of those days,
Wow.
since they will be preparing it, in mass.
In this area or in other?
In Philadelphia
Okay,
and
correct.
hopefully Wilmington. So we're working on coordinating those agencies and acquiring food. It's not just going to be food from Villanova. Once that's done, we will be looking at 2014 as to how the organization will be moving forward. Prior to that, though, we have a huge fundraiser going on this weekend.
Oh, really?
In 3 events. First event is in the morning, it's 5K being run in Hibernia Park. Then in the afternoon, we have a Battle of the Bands for high school and below kids. And then in the evening, we have a rock concert at the Brandywine Y.
And you do that once a year? That kind of
That
spectacular?
fundraiser,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
do multiple fundraisers,
Yes.
but that is a very large one that we are doing once a year, thankfully.
Will you still be going downtown at Christmas time, just before Christmas?
Yep, still planning on down
That's
there.
part of the-
12 days.
That's part of the 12 days?
Yes.
Okay, but again, that's the signature. That's
That's the feeding
where,
frenzy.
That's where it all began.
That's where it all began.
Yeah.
Starts and ends.
Yeah. Which organization, which department in the city sponsors you, or under their auspices do you go down? Or do you just show up at the city? Are
So
you
we'll
allowed
call-
to do that? Just
no,
take
we,
food down?
We work with the shelters. So we
Okay.
contact the shelters and we schedule the date.
Is that the city?
No, the shelters that are inside the city. We're not contacting the city
Okay,
office.
now I understand.
So we'll just contact XYZ
Yeah.
Shelter. And Brenda's
Yeah.
taken over that role. She's
Correct.
been contacting the shelters for me.
It sounds like your job description is being written right now as we're talking.
Sometimes.
Got to be flexible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. I wish you well.
Yeah.
You're doing great work. I would be interested in seeing where this organization is 5 years from now. I expect it is going to be bigger and better and have even more impact than you've had so far. But for a young man, you've done quite well.
Thank you, sir.
Brenda, nice to meet
you.
you.
Nice
Good
to meet
luck.
you.
Have great fun doing good work. Until next time, this is 30 Minutes. I am Rick Anthony. If you run across Derek and company and would like to help out, there is a website that has been up on the screen. I'm sure they'd be pleased to hear from you. Until next time, take very good care of yourselves.